Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host GamerK, and this is a special video because if you're watching this video now, right now I'm in Fan Expo, Canada, in Toronto. I decided to do this video a little bit early, so I decided to wear my Fan Expo shirt from last year. And if you don't believe that, and for a gag, I was going to do the Portal game gun where I portaled right here to do the review, and I'm going to portal right back, but I don't have the budget to do special effects like that. So, for my third video of this month, it's time for a classic of mine. In 2004, Ben 10, one of the most original superhero shows ever, came on TV, and I fell in love with the show immediately. A 10-year-old with an alien watch being a superhero. That was beyond belief back in the day. And nowadays, it's just used to be cheesy for kids. Parents who watch this, get your kids to this Ben 10. The other one's just going to make them dumber. Trust me. Now, what I loved about the show was it wasn't just action-packed. It had good moments, and it also had very good humor within the aliens and the villains and all the scenarios in the game. And that's one of the reasons why it was such a great show. And I even loved the next season, Alien Force, Ultimate Alien. Omnitrix kind of played with the lore a little bit, but it wasn't as bad as the 2016 Ben 10, so I'll give it some leeway. And in that regard, in 2005, after the second season were done, Ben 10, Protector of Earth, came to PlayStation. It also came for the Nintendo Wii, for the Xbox, but I was a PlayStation kid, as you can clearly see, so I'm here to review this game, so it's hero time. Let's get the review started. So let's, right off the bat, Ben 10 Protector of Earth is a classic beat-em-up game where you'll go through the levels, and in certain areas you'll have to defeat all the enemies in order to progress through the level. It's one of those games. There's not that many challenging puzzles. There are a couple, but not too much to take away from the action of the game. Now, the story in this game is beautifully written. It takes place like after around Season 2, and we're going through the entire vacation bit. And turns out that a robot has sucked some energy out of the Omnitrix one night, and Ben has lost access to a good chunk of his aliens. So that's the premise of the game. We have to find the crystals and get access to the aliens again, while also figuring out who stole them and for what reason. Sorry. Now, doing a story like that definitely limits how many aliens we could do in the game. That's a smart way of limiting. When you have a hero with this many abilities, and like Ben does, doing a story like this definitely limits how many aliens the producers had to do and for the game, but without making it sound like we didn't have time to do all these aliens. They do it smartly like this. Now, on that note, there are only, I can't believe I'm saying this, 5 aliens that you can transform into. We got Forearms and Heat Blast right off the bat. We get Accelerate, Cannon Bolt, and Wildvine. So, taking into account the rest of the aliens, and since Wildvine and Cannon Bolt came in Season 2, that means out of 12 aliens, we're using 5, which isn't that great, but overall it's better than what most games do just by hacking the abilities in half just for the sake of time. But they do it smartly, and the aliens they choose are very combat-based, so that's good. I mean, I can't really see them doing Stinkfly or Gray Matter in this. I mean, they could have done some stuff with Ripjaws and Upgrade, but you know what? The characters they did pick, I love the characters, so I'm happy. Now, the game runs, the story, it runs between 4.5 to 5 hours. And for a game back then, that was pretty good, depending on how well you were at fighting games and how well you how many times you died. So it's not that bad of a game, of a length. Let's see. Okay, and the aliens themselves do have their own fighting style and their own abilities in order to use throughout the game. Four Arms uses his strength to move obstacles, to basically he's the brute of it. He's not so fast. Heat Blast is good for long distance. Accelerate is great for taking out multiple enemies at a time, and just watching the animation having him run is great. Cannon Bolt is used for bridging gaps throughout caverns, gaps, and also basically rolling over the competition. Wild Vine's better for what's the term? Like when he swings from platform to platform, a platforming section, but using his extendable arms in order to get to high places. Those I love in this game, of how they use each alien's abilities and everything to advance the gameplay. And also, one thing I love about this game is that you don't just play as the aliens themselves. You play as Ben throughout the whole game, and you choose which alien via Omnitrix controls, which that's something that's really good. When they take the concept from a show and implement it as a part of the game, just like they do the timing out. So as you're in the first couple levels, as you're an alien, the bar in the Omnitrix will start to go down, and it does make the beeping noise when you're timing out. So after that, you will have to be Ben for a while it recharges. And you can't switch between aliens, not at first. Once you get further in the game, you will be allowed to do that. But you're having it done in the beginning of the game definitely makes you deal with the tough choices of which alien to use to fight and which scenario. The game basically, the combat is pretty good. The vast majority of enemies is very cool. In each level section, they do a theme, like a villain theme, and the enemies match it. We have Vilgax's robots to deal with. We have the Forever Knights. We have plant hybrid aliens. We have the monster aliens from the Inner Phaetos, which are the wolf, the werewolf, the mummy, the Frankenstein. And we also have absolutely really cool ideas for the Dr. Animal area, which is in New Orleans, the swamp, and American Revolution reenactment area. He spliced DNA from the Omnitrix into animals, so we get the snake fly, which is a combination of a cobra and stink fly. We get a wildcat, a wild mutt and bobcat, and we get a diamond head and bear mix. These enemies are really, really creative, and it shows that the people who did this game did their research on Ben 10 to make sure it would fit in the show. And that, I gotta give them props for that. I gotta give them props for staying loyal to the show. Now, speaking of levels, I did the research. There are 23 levels in the game, and for a 4.5 hour game, that's pretty good. The levels consist of going to different places that you've been to in the show, and at the end of each, you get a mini boss fight, a boss fight, and a gauntlet where you fight all the enemies from that area, which normally I wouldn't like gauntlet area sections because they make it a whole level, but the fact that they do it at the end of everything, so you don't have to think this is they're doing an enemy gauntlet before the final boss, before the boss thing. They don't do that. They do the gauntlet after the boss of the level, and one thing, also, at the end of the game, you will have a gauntlet where it's like a challenge where you fight every single enemy throughout the game. Of course, you do have access to all the aliens and everything, so, yeah, It's a good... this is a way to do a gauntlet good, and not the annoying way other games do, like Ghostbusters 2016. Speaking of the bosses, there are 5 mini-bosses, and there are 6 main bosses. The mini-bosses are in the classic beat-em-up style, but the main bosses are more... you know, they take up the entirety of the screen, and you gotta fight them, and you... Now, for the mini-bosses, for the main bosses, they do QTE sections. But it's not heavily QTE. It's just like on a way to damage them. Like, to get to the next stage of the level. And the QTE sections are very good, where you switch between the different aliens. And they do, like, their own cool little thing with their powers. Like, watching Accelerate speed kick the boss, it's just gorgeous. And having Cannonball do pinball against one boss, they do it very well. It's beautifully done. So, like, for the mini-bosses, we got Enoch, we got Kevin 11, and we have Clancy. For those of you who remember him, he was the bug dude who appeared in one episode, and then in the final episode of the original Ben 10 series. The main bosses are a bit more secret, so I'm not going to say anything for people who want to try the game out. If you still have a PlayStation 2, this game is flawless. There's barely any criticisms I can say about this game. Barely any. I mean, the graphics at the time, they do it well. And even in the cutscenes, the humor from the show is still in there. I don't even know how to describe it. This is exactly the show in a video game. It's got the humor, it's got the action, it's got the quips, it has references from the show. So, I'm happy. A couple more things to add, that the levels in the game can be backtrack, because at the end of the level, you will get a grade on how well you did. I don't really care for games like that, but it's just a little it's just for a little, gold star thing. Also, you can like I said, after you collect the other aliens in the game, you can backtrack to previous levels, because there are areas where you need the other aliens in order to get gold sumo slammer cards. Now, there's a slammer card in basically every level, and what it does is it unlocks the extras. And the extras are little things for fans, like they have concept art for the game, concept art for levels they didn't use, enemies they didn't use, which I gotta say, the enemies they had designed, a ghost freak spider hybrid. How creepy would that have been? It would have been great. So the entire game is really good. And like I said, the extras also include, outside of concept art, they have little clips of transforming into the aliens, which is a nice touch. It's just there so people who have never seen the show can watch the transformations, and I enjoy it too. And there's also, obviously, in a game like this, there's an enemy gallery, where in the main menu you can see like the profiles of all the enemies, all the bosses. Just for a little thing, it shows that they really cared enough to put this kind of gallery. And this kind of gallery I like in games. And not like a diorama mode where you have to do certain things in the game in order to unlock the character model and everything. Those just ruin it. Now, like I said, this is a flawless game. There are a couple things that kind of bring it down. Like, for some reason, they have co-op mode where there's 2 Bens and you basically play with a friend. I don't really care for that. It's not needed. I mean, it's Ben 10. Why does there need to be a second one there? No reason. Also, like I said, they could have done more with the other aliens. I think they could have done so, because I've seen in the other Ben 10 games, they do have the entire alien roster. So I say, someone take this Ben 10, the Ben 10 people love, and use the entire alien roster in a brand new game. Please, give us this kind of nostalgia again. Give us that sense that this Ben 10 will forever be known as the first and one of the greatest, with the entire roster, and yes, including Ghost Freak. Now, basically, let's rundown. The story is brilliantly written, and it ties into the show, every villain in the show. The levels are beautifully designed, even though it feels like you can't explore it, but it's a beat-em-up game, so those kinds of games you don't really explore. I mean, there are little puzzles to do and little nooks and crannies to investigate in order to collect everything. The enemies are well done, and they're not AI stupid. The bosses are fun and gargantuan, and it makes you feel like you're playing. Basically, the game feels like you're playing an episode of Ben 10. Every level feels like you're playing an episode. And that is why it gets more on the list. When you're playing a game that's based on a TV series, if you are feeling like it's not entertaining for you, then there's a problem. Games like this should make you feel like you're in an episode and you're playing through it. That's what this game does. So for that, GamerK's final verdict for Ben 10 Protector of Earth is an 8 out of 10, and that's my final rating for that. It does, if they included more of the aliens and had it be a little more fine-tuned with the aliens and their combat and their combos. The combos are good. I just wish they would have put more emphasis on the aliens and less on the combos. But that's just one little gripe in this retro game that I will always love, and I look forward to the day when I get a remaster of this or a brand new version of this Ben 10 for the video game system. I miss it. And for anyone who's interested, this game is well worth. If you find it at a dollar store, it's perfect. If you have an old PlayStation 2, perfect. This game deserves to be played and deserves to be appreciated, especially where Ben 10 is going nowadays. Oh, boy. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Coming next week for the final episode in August, I end the month on a good note as the greatest boss battles in video games comes to the Game Hub. Like, comment, subscribe down below, share this video if you want, give it a like. This is GamerK, logging out.